fans and your audience have desperately missed you. Does the release still make you nervous?
You know, people think I'm pompous. If I answer it the way I would like to answer it honestly, I don't think I need to be nervous. I think they're going to be all super hit films.
With my impatient existence waiting it out for a day until a lot of you watch Jawan, I had to come here and just discuss with all of you everything regarding this film. A full-blown spoiler-filled discussion where we dissect what really worked for the film, what faltered in the process, addressing the criticism that ATLEE and the makers are getting, and taking a deep dive on the meta-ness and the lines blurring between real and fiction that is not being discussed by most of the film analysts on social media, barring a few who caught on. The film has opened bigger than Pathaan by quite a margin, and it has a lot to do with more than just what people assume. People equate it to the lack of exposure the Hindi film audience has to mass commercial cinema, but the purpose of the video is also to reference for all of you why a movie like Jawan hits harder than any generic larger than life commercial film, especially at this time of where India stands, and why it hits most loyal film fans right at the gut when it's SHAHRUKH Khan at the helm of affairs. So let's get into a deep dive of the film in chronological order, and you also do chime in the comments below with your favorite moments, sequences that you feel missed the mark, and why do you think certain sequences especially hit a chord with the audience. From the first frame itself, anyone in the audience, someone as a neutral viewer, would also get pumped, because to introduce SHAHRUKH Khan as a drowning, blood-soaked and injured individual is what most people metaphorically think of his presence in the film industry before 2023. A man dismissed as being a has-been, and how any reinvention will fall on blind eyes and deaf ears because his time is over. The cinematography in the first sequence by GK Vishnu is something to marvel at, of a village rehabilitating the soldier only to be ambushed and pray for a messiah to rescue them. The mummified introduction of SRK was straight out of an anime. On top of the hill as lightning strikes was pure commercial gold. The action set piece is crisp, and a question posed as "Who am I?" makes for a fitting introduction set piece of a film that gets the ball rolling from the word go. ATLEE skips 30 years to focus on the metro hostage situation, and what I love is that everyone initially assumed this is Vikram Rathore. A good surprise as the film progressed for me when it was later revealed that this is the child Vikram never knew of. I found it slightly funny though that no one in the metro security found it slightly alarming that someone dressed like this went on with their day like it was any other routine situation. Beyond throwing us off with his identity, I also like the fact that ATLEE makes us initially assume that this bald man is completely unhinged, willing to kill anyone at the drop of a hat as he shoots a burqa-clad woman. I for a second really thought that this is going to be someone as manic as SRK from Dar or Anjam. As ATLEE wastes no time, he quickly establishes the central theme of the vigilante. He identifies as Bharat Ka Nagrik. His frustration at the fact that nothing changes even when he chooses to vote for someone new, and more importantly stating कि मैं खुद कर लूंगा, on how the system and its lack of effective work has made him compelled to take matters into his own hands. While I appreciate ATLEE for wasting no time in his screenplay and setting up the film, it is the abrupt shift of tonality from the charm and wit of Azad to an emotional flashback of one of the girls from his army where I completely got disoriented. ATLEE is known for these staple cutaways that provide us context about the characters in the current timeline. But upon the second viewing of the movie also, I realized that the makers actually required a more solid act to convince us of their origin story. And I feel the farmer suicide storyline was hammed to no degree. Even an actor like Omkar Das, who has an understated and effective performance in Peepli Live, hams so hard with the rousing Kailash Kher music in the background, which by the way, has to be the most underrated single from the film. That the flashback itself and its convenient solution was far too quick in really developing genuine empathy within you. The trauma faced by farmers, the transfer of money demanded, the solution that results in loans getting forgiven is done at such lightning speed that you barely have time to feel a certain way. And this is where the criticism of too many cooks spoil the broth is being discussed regarding Jawan, where the saturated social topics may have dampened the overall impact versus if the film focused on one or two core issues. I thought the exit from the metro executed with the automated ammunition that deliberately misses the target was clever, and this is where the identity of Azad and the all-female jail is revealed, where the purpose of the jail is to rehabilitate the prisoners and make them contribute to society while they are serving their sentences. Even upon the second viewing, people hooted and cheered during Zinda Banda, so it's pretty clear to me that some songs in a packed theatre with people rejoicing and shaking a leg just hits different. This, however, is followed by the romantic angle in the film, and I, upon watching it twice, have an unpopular opinion. Nayanthara is a total badass in this film as the cop, who has a goal to stop this madness that this vigilante is executing. But it made me think, would Jawan be even more of a slick edit if the romantic angle and arranged marriage simply did not exist? One of the main reasons why the romantic angle between SRK and Nayanthara, the catalyst of which is her daughter, isn't as jarring for people is because it is performed well. But the brief time in which Nayanthara accepts SRK to be her husband threw me off completely. One can assume that it's because of the happiness that she sees in her daughter's eyes, and it really becoming the driving factor for her, but it's far too fast for anyone's liking to be absolutely invested in their relationship. It literally took one meeting of seeing SRK and she accepted. The abrupt shift of tonality exists in this instance too, where Chaleya, a light, breezy song, is immediately followed by exposing the terrible state of public hospitals in the country. Something light is immediately followed by something as scary as children dying due to negligence. If you understand the meta nature of the film throughout, you would recognize that this hospital sequence is not just any generic backstory. This is where I again reiterate what special actors can pull off, and the most convincing origin story from the girl army is of Sania Malhotra and her begging and pleading the officials for oxygen tanks to save the lives of the children. A reality we as Indians dealt with during the height of the pandemic as well, where personal experiences of losing loved ones had become a haunting regular occurrence. A lot of it stemming from the lack of facilities available in hospitals across the country. The convenience with which solutions are brought to improve public infrastructure, as I stated in my review, borders on being slightly unintentionally funny. As I said, it would put Anil Kapoor's role as CM in Nayak to shame, and the meme of a city having skyscrapers and flying cars if Ekta Kapoor made progressive serials a reality. Sania Malhotra, I must say again, absolutely kills it in the origin story. Her getting falsely imprisoned also echoes similar situations that happened close to 6 years ago in this country. The ambush at the hospital as SRK and the army escape in a helicopter, I believe, was designed exceptionally well, especially the combat sequence of Nayanthara excelling with her pocket knife. This is followed by Vijay Sethupathi hilariously working out in an akhada set up in a modern gym. They say that your hero is as good as your villain, but I think the biggest drawback of Jawan was how unserious Vijay Sethupathi's character was written. This is no way indicative of Vijay's talent, but the lack of care in writing him as an unhinged villain that all of us should be intimidated by. He bordered on just being an affluent prankster versus someone that brought shivers down my spine. This is where I think John's Jim from Pathaan really helped in elevating the film, because when the stakes were high with him, you actually feared him to do the unthinkable. Whereas when Vijay faced off with SRK, I was waiting for the next comedic punchline that he would crack. He makes a dal bati analogy that even goes over Ijaz Khan's head as he kidnaps SRK and Nayanthara, and this is where I upon second viewing can also confirm the interval block bangs like no one's business. When you think of SRK being styled and just the badass avatars he's featured in, one thinks of Dawn 2, the introduction on the boat, appearing out of the smoke in Rais, and Vikram Rathore easily becomes the GOAT amongst the list. The cigar in the mouth, the tunes playing in the earphones, the denim shirt and pants, the big buckle belt. It was all too perfect, where SRK's father Avatar actually became the crowd favourite in Jawan. This is something about ATLEE's obsession with Appas, be it Joseph and Terry, Vetrimaran and Marcel, or Rayappan and Bigil. They somehow always stand out as the whistle-worthy, cheering moments from his films. This is why the makeup department head, Pratishilji Singh, also deserves a lot of love. When the second half commenced and Vijay for some odd reason is presented in all white with his white hair and immediately after looks quite different in the same timeline, I wondered whether ATLEE is just going for the quintessential evil villains from vintage Hindi cinema. You know, when you think of Shakal from Shan who has sharks swimming in his den, Dr. Dang from Karm, or Mogambo from Mr. India, guys who are just evil and over the top in their antics. The white getup, the Bane financer with the cheetah, the red and blue pill homage to Matrix, the little person acting as a steady cam for the FaceTime video are all just commercial villain shit, done probably in a self-aware manner. I guess I wouldn't know unless I hear it from the horse's mouth. You also quickly realize when Vikram Rathod's origin story is explored and his equation with Deepika Padukone becomes center stage that a billionaire in the form of Vijay Sethupathi contributes huge sum of money to the government and is preferred for contracts sanctioned by them. That the makers knew what they were saying beyond the scope of the film. This is something that is not being recognized by a lot of people on how the movie is more than just a fictional story. It's actually a commentary on a lot of things that have happened in the last few years in this country. I felt the court proceeding and the way SRK addresses Sethupathis faulty guns was executed really well. Only for his family to be ambushed, for him to be taken away from his wife, Deepika serving a sentence for killing police officer lands her in jail. And while people were debating about the efficacy of identifying pregnancy through observing the pulse of a woman, I still found the moment to be unintentionally funny. It is, however, the sequence of Deepika raising Azad in jail as RRE Raro plays in the background where the genuine feels did overpower me. Deepika, with the belief that Vikram has come to meet her, is thrown off by seeing Kali. This scene is one of the standout moments from the second half, where Kali makes his heartless quality apparent and Deepika becomes full of rage with a death stare. While this flashback worked wonders, I feel they really lost out on the potential they could have explored with the characters of Sunil Grover and Priya Mani. The backstabbing situation of Grover working for Kali should have been more effective with its execution, more hard-hitting and jaw-dropping that he backstabbed Nayanthara. And Priya Mani, I thought, was done dirty in the edit, as her origin story actually seemed compelling. It probably would have been as effective or more effective than Sania Malhotra's story. Killing her off while giving her trauma a mere montage, I thought dampened the empathy we would have otherwise developed for her. You know, when we say the conviction of commercial directors that make us forget about the over-the-top nature and absurdity of some sequences, then the bike chase scene of the trucks and Scorpios has to really top the list in Jawan. Convincing the audience of eggs, parachutes and spikes aiding the veterans to capture the truckload of money being transported. The drift, the cigar getting lit up, the bike blasting the cars was absolute gold. When Sanjay Dutt is sent to find a solution to the problem, I must say his presence was thoroughly entertaining in the film, especially as he jives on Khalnayak upon his entry. While his Onam jokes were not entirely landing, I just thought of the hypothetical. Imagine. Just imagine if DCP Vijay Kumar from Theri landed up as the cop. It would have caused such mass hysteria that I cannot even imagine the scenes in the theatres in Chennai. I genuinely feel that would have been such a perfect cameo for the film. As Azad keeps the EVMs and money as hostage, the convenience of solutions is consistent throughout the film. Factories being shut upon demand due to the detrimental effects they have on human lives. But it is when SRK addresses the public on the power of their vote where the lines between real and fiction especially get blurred. Through that speech, there is a resounding frustration in SRK's tone. One sees less of Azad and more of SRK on urging the public to question those in positions of power and genuinely ask them what they will do for them in the next 5 years. Casting your vote not on the basis of caste or religion, but the active work that they will do for the citizens of the country in the next 5 years. This being referenced as an anti-BJP speech is far from it, as it's an Indian citizen simply urging others to know the power of their vote and reminding one of the importance of being an active part of a democracy. A lot of people reference this as an ATLEE or commercial staple of how actors like Vijay and Mahesh Babu in their films have done similar calls for justice for the common man, but one has to see the context of what SRK has gone through in the last few years and why it hits harder when he voices his opinion. This is a revered figure who is questioned only recently on his love for the country, a man whose effigies were burnt, whose posters were ripped, whose allegiance to the country was questioned, whose family was harassed and reprimanded by the media on a daily basis. It isn't just any other speech. It's SRK with the context of the recent history speaking to his audience. That's why it hits different. It is the meta nature of this speech, the reference of Mufasa and Simba, the threat of bete se pehle baap se baat kar, which is not a generic callback to Lion King. It reminds us of a protective father who would do anything for his son, of someone who was clearly targeted by the system, that this was a ploy to malign him and his family. I wish the film did not abruptly end the way it did, because the preceding moments of the father and son battling it out with the Bahubali-like figure worked really well and had great comedic moments. It might be dismissed by a lot of people because they have seen this template by ATLEE, but I reiterate, the Hindi audience is not only connecting with the film because it's a mass commercial film, but it has a lot to do with SRK's own recent history and a celebration of a Hindi film star who has come from hell and back. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below of your spoiler thoughts regarding Jawan, what you liked, what you disliked, and what you thought could have been better. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.